the quiet species. The galaxy had grown comfortable with humanity's place in the cosmic order. For 3 centuries since first contact, humans had been the galaxy's mechanics, traders and peacekeepers. They fixed broken hyperdrives, negotiated trade disputes, and served as neutral mediators when conflicts arose between the more aggressive species. The Galactic Council viewed Earth as useful but unremarkable, a species of problem solvers who preferred diplomacy to warfare. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the trade vessel Horizon's Edge, watching the stars streak past through hyperspace. His crew of 12 humans had just finished mediating a territorial dispute between the Vorthon Empire and the Celtic Federation. Another successful mission, another peaceful resolution. The humans had a reputation for this kind of work. "Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. Jake frowned. Priority transmissions were rare during routine missions. "Put it through." Admiral Stone's weathered face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim. "All human vessels are to return to Earth immediately. We have a code black situation." The SAO bridge fell silent. Code black meant only one thing. Earth was under direct threat. "Admiral, what's the nature of the threat?" Jake asked. "The Drakari Collective has issued an ultimatum. They're demanding humanity surrender all our trade routes and colonies, or they'll reduce Earth to ash. They've given us 72 hours. Jake's blood ran cold. The Drakari were known throughout the galaxy as ruthless conquerors. Their massive fleets had crushed dozens of civilizations, turning entire worlds into slave colonies. But they'd never targeted humanity before. Humans were too useful as neutral parties. "Why us? Why now?" Lisa whispered. Stone's expression darkened. "They claim we've been secretly arming their enemies. It's false, but they don't care. They want our trade networks, and they're using this as an excuse to take them." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening on hundreds of human ships. The news spread quickly through human colonies. The Drakari Collective, with their fleet of 10,000 warships, was coming for Earth. On the core worlds of various species, the reaction was mixed. The Vorthons expressed regret but made it clear they wouldn't intervene. The Drakari were too powerful. The Celtic Federation offered refuge to human refugees but no military support. The smaller species that humanity had helped over the centuries watched nervously, knowing they could be next. Ambassador Tim Walsh stood before the Galactic Council pleading for intervention. The council chamber was vast, filled with representatives from 200 species. Most avoided his gaze. "Honored delegates," Tim began, "humanity has served this galaxy faithfully for 3 centuries. We've mediated your conflicts, repaired your ships, and asked for nothing but peaceful coexistence. Now we face extinction, and we ask for your help." The Thakarian representative, a tall insectoid being, clicked his mandibles dismissively. "The Drakari Collective is too powerful. Intervention would only bring their wrath upon us all." "Besides," added the Zenthari delegate, her multiple eyes blinking, "in sequence, humanity has always claimed to value peace above all else. Surely you can negotiate a solution." Tim felt his jaw clench. After centuries of helping others, Earth stood alone. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the Drakari fleet was already moving. Admiral Vex commanded the armada from his flagship, a massive dreadnought called Death Shadow. His species had evolved from predators, and their ships reflected that heritage. Dark, angular vessels bristling with weapons. "How long until we reach the human homeworld?" Vex asked his tactical officer. 48 hours, Admiral. Our scouts report minimal defenses. A few orbital platforms, some patrol ships, nothing that could threaten even a single Drakari cruiser." Vex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. 3 centuries and they never built a proper fleet. They truly believed their peaceful nature would protect them. But in the outer reaches of Earth's solar system, something was stirring. Ancient shipyards that had been dormant for centuries suddenly came online. Automated systems that hadn't activated since humanity's early expansion into space began their work. Deep in Earth's oceans, massive structures rose from hidden bases. "Doctor, Robert Chen, director of Earth's Historical Archives, stood in a secure bunker beneath Geneva, watching displays that showed activity across the globe. Facilities that had been classified beyond top secret were awakening. "Sir," his assistant Mark said, voice shaking, "the old shipyards are requesting authentication codes, the ones from the colonial wars." Robert nodded grimly. "Give them full authorization. It's time the galaxy remembered what humanity was like before we chose peace." As the Drakari fleet approached Earth, confident in their overwhelming superiority, they had no idea that humanity's 3 centuries of peaceful behavior had been a choice, not a limitation. They were about to discover what Earth had built in the shadows, waiting for the day when peace was no longer an option. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had been so eager to avoid war. The awakening. The first sign that something had changed came from Earth's moon. What had appeared to be mining facilities for centuries suddenly transformed, their surfaces sliding away to reveal massive launch bays. Ships began emerging. Not the familiar civilian vessels the galaxy knew, but something entirely different. Captain Rex Morales received the activation signal while his freighter was still 2 days out from Earth. The message was simple. Protocol 7 is now active. Report to Luna Base 7 immediately. Rex had carried the sealed orders for 15 years, never knowing what Protocol 7 meant. Like thousands of other human captains, he'd been told the orders would only be opened if humanity faced extinction. Now, as he broke the seal and read the contents, his hands began to shake. "All crew to stations," he announced over the ship's intercom. "We're not going home. We're going to war." Across human space, the same scene played out on merchant vessels, research ships, and passenger liners. Hidden compartments opened, revealing military-grade weapons and armor. Civilian ships that had carried cargo and families for decades suddenly bristled with weapons that had been concealed within their hulls. The Drakari scouts watching Earth's outer system reported the strange activity to Admiral Vex. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the human homeworld. Multiple facilities are powering up." Vex dismissed the report with a wave of his clawed hand. "Desperate attempts to mount a defense. How many ships have they managed to deploy?" "That's unclear, sir. Our sensors are having difficulty getting accurate readings. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases." On Earth, President Maria Santos stood in the war room deep beneath the Capitol, surrounded by military officials who had spent their careers in peaceful service. The transformation happening around them was staggering. "General Brooks, give me a status report," she ordered. General Tom Brooks, a man who had never expected to fight a real war, consulted his displays. "Madam President, the first wave of ships will be ready in 18 hours. The Luna shipyards are operating at full capacity, and the ocean facilities are ahead of schedule. How many ships are we talking about?" Brooks paused, still hardly believing the numbers himself. "Initial deployment will be 12,000 vessels, ma'am. Full mobilization will give us 35,000 within the week." President Santos felt her breath catch. "How is that possible? We've never built that many military ships. Ma'am, we've been building them for 3 centuries. We just called them something else." The truth was staggering. Every civilian ship humanity had constructed contained a hidden military core. Every space station had concealed weapon systems. Every mining operation had been part of a vast network of automated shipyards. While the galaxy saw humanity as peaceful traders and mediators, Earth had been preparing for war on a scale no one could imagine. Dr. Chen stood before a massive display showing ship designs that had been classified for centuries. "The colonial wars taught us that peace is only possible when you're strong enough to defend it," he explained to the assembled military leaders. "So we built everything twice. Once for peace, once for war." The ships emerging from Earth's hidden facilities were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They moved differently, responded faster, and carried weapons that made Drakari technology look primitive. The humans had spent 3 centuries not just maintaining peace, but perfecting the art of war in secret. Commander Jake Morrison's trade vessel had been one of the first to transform. As he watched his ship's cargo bays reconfigure into weapons platforms, his crew worked with practiced efficiency that surprised even him. The training they'd thought was for emergency repairs was actually military conditioning. "Jake," Lisa called. From her station. "I'm receiving tactical data from Earth Command. The Drakari fleet is larger than we thought. 12,000 ships." 12,000? Jake repeated, then smiled grimly. "Tell Earth Command we'll take those odds." In the depths of space, automated defense platforms that had masqueraded as communication relays for decades suddenly came online. The network of research stations throughout human space revealed their true purpose as they began coordinating the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Admiral Vex was growing concerned. His scouts were reporting impossible numbers. "You're certain of these readings?" he demanded. "Sir, our sensors indicate at least 10,000 human vessels converging on our position. But that can't be right. Intelligence reports said they had fewer than 50 military ships." "Intelligence was wrong," Vex growled. "All ships to battle stations. If the humans want to throw their entire civilian fleet at us, we'll destroy them all." But as the human fleet took position between Earth and the approaching Drakari armada, it became clear that these were not converted civilian vessels. These were warships that had been designed from the beginning to fight, hidden within the disguise of peaceful exploration and trade. The galaxy was about to witness what humanity had built, while the rest of the universe slept peacefully, protected by Earth's diplomats and mediators. The Drakari had come expecting to crush a helpless species. Instead, they found themselves facing the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. First contact, the battle began at 800 hours, Earth, standard time in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Admiral Vex had positioned his fleet in what he believed was an optimal attack formation, designed to overwhelm Earth's pathetic defenses with sheer firepower. He had done this dozens of times before against other species. "Begin the assault," Vex commanded from the bridge of Death's shadow. "Show these peaceful humans what real war looks like." The first wave of Drakari ships opened fire, their plasma cannons lighting up space with deadly energy. For a moment it seemed like every previous conquest, overwhelming force against inadequate defenses. Then the human ships began to move. They didn't just dodge the incoming fire, they seemed to dance around it. The Drakari weapons, which had been devastatingly effective against every other species, found nothing but empty space. The human vessels moved with an agility that defied physics, turning and accelerating in ways that should have crushed their crews. "What kind of engines are those?" demanded Vex's tactical officer. Before anyone could answer, the human fleet returned. Fire. The weapons that emerged from the human ships were beyond anything in the Drakari arsenal. Beams of pure energy that could slice through Drakari shields like paper. Projectiles that seemed to think for themselves, adjusting course to hit moving targets with perfect accuracy. And strangest of all, weapons that seemed to simply make Drakari ships stop working. No explosion, no fire, just sudden, complete shutdown. Captain Rex Morales commanded a ship that had been a cargo hauler just days before. Now, as he watched his weapons tear through 3 Drakari cruisers in seconds, he felt a mixture of pride and sadness. "Target their command ship," he ordered. "Let's end this quickly." The human fleet moved as one organism, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. 3 centuries of peaceful coordination had been perfect training for military precision. While the Drakari fleet struggled to adapt their tactics, the humans fought with a unity that seemed impossible. Admiral Vex watched in horror as half his fleet was destroyed in the first 10 minutes of combat. "Impossible! Our intelligence said they were pacifists!" "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through." The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Admiral Stone, but he looked different now, harder, more dangerous. "Admiral Vex, you have one chance to withdraw your forces and leave human space. This is your only warning." Vex laughed, though it sounded forced. "You may have surprised us, but we still outnumber you. We will not retreat from inferior beings." Admiral Stone's expression didn't change. "Then you've chosen extinction. All ships. Execute Phase 2. What happened next defied everything the galaxy thought it knew about space combat. The human ships began to separate into component parts, each section becoming an independent fighting unit. A single human cruiser became 10 smaller vessels, each as dangerous as the original. The human fleet didn't just double in size, it multiplied by factors that made the Drakari advantages meaningless. But the real shock came when the human weapons began to adapt. Every time the Drakari tried a new defensive measure, the human weapons changed to counter it. It was as if the humans were learning and evolving their technology in real time. Commander Jake Morrison piloted one of the smaller combat units that had separated from his original ship. As he weaved through the Drakari formation, his weapons seemed to know what he was thinking before he did. "Lisa, how are our systems responding so quickly?" "Jake," Lisa replied from her own separated unit. "I think our ships have been learning from us for 3 centuries. Every simulation, every training exercise, every peaceful mission, they were all data points. The ships know how we think." Across the battlefield, Drakari ships were falling like leaves. Their advanced shields meant nothing against weapons that seemed to phase through them. Their superior numbers were useless against an enemy that could split apart and reform at will. Their battle-tested tactics failed against opponents who seemed to know their next move before they made it. Admiral Vex found himself alone on the bridge of his flagship, most of his crew dead or unconscious from the overwhelming assault. Around him, the pride of the Drakari fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy they had dismissed as harmless. "Sir?" came a weak voice from the communications station. "The other battle groups are reporting similar results. The humans aren't just defeating us, they're teaching us that we never understood what war could be." In the space of 2 hours, the most feared military force in the galaxy had been reduced to scattered, fleeing survivors. The Drakari collective, which had conquered worlds for centuries, had encountered something they never expected. A species that had spent those same centuries perfecting the art of war while maintaining perfect peace. As the last Drakari ships fled toward the edge of the solar system, the human fleet began to regroup. But they weren't finished. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's response to aggression was not just defense, it was total victory. The Reckoning. The news of the Drakari defeat spread across the galaxy in hours, carried by automated probe networks, and terrified survivors. What should have been humanity's extinction had become the most decisive military victory in recorded galactic history. But instead of celebrating, Earth's leaders were planning something that would shake the foundation of galactic civilization. President Santos convened an emergency session with the Galactic Council via quantum communication. Representatives from hundreds of species appeared as holograms in the assembly chamber, their faces showing mixtures of shock, fear, and disbelief. "Honored delegates," President Santos began, her voice calm but carrying an undertone that made even the most arrogant species representatives shift uncomfortably. "For 3 centuries, humanity has served this galaxy faithfully. We've mediated your conflicts, repaired your infrastructure, and maintained the peace you all claim to value." The Thakarian delegate, who had dismissed humanity's plea for help just days earlier, now spoke with notable respect. "President Santos, we congratulate Earth on its impressive defensive victory. Perhaps we can discuss new trade agreements." "You misunderstand," Santos interrupted. "This wasn't a defensive victory. This was a demonstration. And now, the galaxy will learn what happens when peaceful species are pushed beyond their limits." Admiral Stone appeared on a secondary screen, broadcasting from the command ship of humanity's fleet. Behind him, thousands of human vessels were visible, no longer hiding their true nature. The Drakari collective controlled 47 star systems and enslaved 12 different species. As of today, those systems are under human protection. Chamber erupted in shocked voices. The Zenthari delegates' multiple eyes blinked rapidly. "You cannot simply claim sovereign territory. The Galactic Council has laws. The same laws that left humanity to face extinction alone?" Admiral Stone asked coldly. "The same council that watched the Drakari enslave entire civilizations for decades without intervention? Those laws?" "General, Brooks activated a galactic display showing human fleet movements. Red indicators marked Drakari positions throughout their territory. Our forces are currently liberating every world the Drakari conquered in the last century. The enslaved populations are being freed, and new governments are being established under human protection. What the delegates were seeing was impossible by conventional understanding. Human fleets were appearing simultaneously across dozens of star systems, engaging Drakari forces with the same devastating effectiveness they had shown at Earth. But this wasn't just military action. It was a complete restructuring of galactic power. Captain Rex Morales stood on the bridge of his ship as it entered the Kepler 4042 system, where the Drakari had enslaved the native Helian population for 30 years. The liberation was swift and precise. Drakari ships were disabled rather than destroyed when possible, their crews taken prisoner. The orbital slave facilities were captured intact, their victims freed within hours. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "the Helian government is requesting permission to join the Human Protection Alliance." Rex smiled. It was the same story across liberated space. Species that had been conquered by the Drakari were eagerly requesting human protection, having witnessed what Earth's peaceful fleet could accomplish when motivated. But the real shock came when humanity revealed the scope of their preparation. The ships attacking Drakari territory weren't the same ones that had defended Earth. Those had been just the first wave. Now, as automated shipyards across human space worked at full capacity, the true size of Earth's military became apparent. Dr. Chen addressed the Galactic Council from Earth's Strategic Command Center. For 3 centuries, every human colony, every space station, every mining operation has been part of our defense network. We have 35,000 active warships and the capacity to build 1,000 more each month. We've been preparing for this moment since we first encountered galactic civilization. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just hidden their military capabilities, they had built the largest, most advanced fleet in galactic history while maintaining perfect diplomatic relations with everyone. President Santos continued her address. "The age of conquest is over. Any species that attacks another will face the combined might of the Human Protection Alliance. The Drakari learned this lesson. We hope others won't need to." Admiral Vex, now a prisoner, aboard a human vessel, watched through a viewport as his former empire crumbled. Every Drakari stronghold was being systematically liberated, their enslaved populations freed, their war machine dismantled with surgical precision. "How?" he asked his human guard, a young officer named Tom. "How did we never see this coming?" Tom looked at the defeated admiral with something approaching pity. "Because you saw what we wanted you to see. We were never weak. We were just choosing to be peaceful. But peace only works when everyone agrees to it." The galaxy was learning a new reality. The species they had dismissed as useful but harmless mediators were now the dominant military power in known space, and they were using that power not for conquest, but to ensure that the age of conquest itself would never return. The Drakari had wanted war. Instead, they had given humanity the justification to reshape galactic civilization forever. The New Order. 6 months after the first Drakari ship had entered human space, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The Human Protection Alliance now encompassed over 200 star systems not through conquest, but through voluntary membership. Species that had lived in fear of the Drakari and other aggressive civilizations now found themselves under the protection of Earth's vast fleet. Ambassador Tim Walsh stood once again before the Galactic Council, but this time the chamber was different. Representatives who had once avoided his gaze now hung on his every word. The balance of power had shifted so dramatically that even the proudest species approached humanity with respect and caution. The Human Protection Alliance offers membership to any civilization that renounces conquest and commits to peaceful coexistence, Tim announced. In return, we guarantee protection from any aggressive force and access to human technology and trade networks. The Vorthon representative, whose empire had once rivaled the Drakari in military might, spoke carefully. "What assurances do we have that humanity won't use this power for its own expansion?" Tim gestured to a display showing human fleet positions. "Admiral Stone, please explain our military doctrine." Admiral Stone appeared on the main screen, his weathered face serious but not threatening. Our fleets exist for one purpose, maintaining peace. We have no interest in ruling other species or claiming territory. Every liberated world in the former Drakari space has been given self-governance under our protection. Our military serves as a deterrent, nothing more. But deterrent was perhaps too mild a word. The human fleet had grown to over 50,000 ships, with new vessels emerging from hidden shipyards throughout human space. More importantly, human technology had advanced beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Ships that could phase through, conventional weapons, engines that operated on principles other species couldn't understand, and weapons that could disable entire fleets without destroying them. Captain Rex Morales commanded one of the new Peacekeeper-class vessels, patrolling the border between former Drakari space and the neutral zone. His ship, the Harmony, was a marvel of human engineering, capable of defeating 100 conventional warships while carrying medical supplies and humanitarian aid. "Captain," his communications officer called, "we're receiving a distress signal from the Rigel system. The Korthak Empire is attacking civilian settlements." Rex nodded grimly. The Korthak had been testing human resolve for weeks, believing that Earth's forces were spread too thin to respond everywhere. They were about to learn otherwise. "Set course for Rigel. Alert the 4th Fleet. We'll need backup for prisoner processing." The Korthak attack fleet never knew what hit them. One moment they were bombarding defenseless colonies, the next they found themselves surrounded by human vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, the Korthak commander found himself aboard a human ship staring at Captain Rex across a conference table. "Your fleet has been disabled, not destroyed," Rex explained calmly. "Your crews are unharmed but imprisoned. You have a choice. Withdraw from Korthak space entirely and seek asylum with the Alliance, or return to your empire and explain to your leaders what happened here." The Korthak commander, a proud warrior who had never known defeat, looked broken. "How many ships do you have? How many systems can you protect at once?" Rex smiled. "Enough. The question isn't our capacity, it's whether your people want to join the galaxy's future or cling to its past." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as aggressive species encountered humanity's new reality. The Zelkan Confederacy abandoned their plans to invade the Centauri colonies. The Morgoth clan ceased their raids on trading vessels. The very concept of interstellar warfare was becoming obsolete in the face of human military supremacy. Dr. Chen stood in his laboratory on Earth, watching displays that showed galactic civilization transforming before his eyes. Trade was flourishing between protected worlds. Scientific collaboration was reaching new heights. The resources that had once been spent on warfare were now directed toward exploration and development. "Sir," his assistant Mark reported, "the latest intelligence suggests that over 70% of known civilizations have either joined the Alliance or signed non-aggression pacts with us. The remaining 30% are keeping to themselves." Chen nodded. "And the Drakari survivors?" "Admiral Vex and his remaining forces have established a small colony in the Outer Rim. They've renounced conquest and are attempting to build a peaceful society. Apparently, they've requested human agricultural advisors." The irony wasn't lost on Chen. The species that had threatened humanity's extinction was now asking for help. Growing food. President Santos received daily reports from across the galaxy, each one confirming what Earth's leaders had hoped, that overwhelming military power, used not for conquest but for protection, could fundamentally change the nature of galactic civilization. In the end, humanity's greatest victory wasn't the destruction of their enemies. It was the creation of a galaxy where such enemies could no longer exist. The ships Earth had unleashed had done more than win a war. They had won the peace that would define the galaxy's future. The age of conquest was over. The age of protection had begun. The end.